Hello everybody, and thank you for joining for today's edition of the Daf Yomi, Menachot 58 Amud B. And Abaye consequently maintains that there is such a matter as halachically significant burning of a handful, even if it is less than the volume of an olive bulb. It follows that the phrase any leaven teaches that if one sacrificed less than an olive bulb of a handful that was leaven, he is liable. Rava says, so it's for Rava Amma. There are two explanations. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to start that again from the beginning. And Abaye consequently maintains that there is such a matter as a halachically significant burning of a handful, even if it is less than the volume of olive bulb. It follows that the phrase any leaven teaches that if one sacrificed less than an olive bulb of a handful that was leaven, he's liable. And Rava says there are two explanations of the early commentaries with regard to the derivation from as any leaven, according to the opinion of Rava. Some explain that like Abaye, Rava maintains that this serves to include a prohibition against burning a mixture of leaven, even where the leaven is not recognizable in the mixture, says Rashi. Others explain that as a minimum volume of halachically significant burning is volume of an olive bulb, according to the opinion of Rava. This derivation teaches that a permitted substance joins together with a prohibited substance, i.e., if one eats a permitted food together with a prohibited food, and together they constitute the minimum prohibited measure, he is liable for this act of consumption. Tosfot Rabbeinu Gershom Moagola Shiti Mechubes says that later commentaries discuss the understanding of the Rambam with regard to the statement of Rava. See the grid. There is no such entity as a handful that is less than the size of 2 olives. So what does that mean? Ein chametz pachot mishnei zeisim. The handful of a meal offering may not be less than 2 olive bulbs, in accordance to the opinion of Rava. I'm going to say 13:14. And consequently, the mitzvah not to burn leaven is referring initially to a full handful of 2 olive bulbs. And Rava holds that there is no such matter as halachically significant burning of a handful if it is less than the volume of an olive bulb. In haktara perchusa mikazayis. One who sacrifices leaven or honey on the altar is liable only if he sacrifices the amount of an olive bulb, in accordance with the opinion of Rava. Therefore, one cannot derive from the phrase as any leaven that one can be liable for sacrificing leaven of less than 1 olive bulb. Instead, the phrase must be referring to a case where half the handful is leaven. The Gemara discusses another dispute between Abaye and Rava on this topic. It was stated with regard to one who offers up a mixture made of leaven and of honey on the altar. One who sacrifices leaven and honey together on the altar receives 1 set of lashes, as one prohibition stated in the Torah include both of them. 5:1. The other commentators disagree as to the explanation of the opinions of Abaye and Rava. Some state that according to Abaye, only the prohibition concerning a mixture is considered a general prohibition, whereas one receives 1 set of lashes for burning leaven and the second set for burning honey. Rashi Tosfot. Others state that he is flogged 1 set for both leaven and honey. Rambam Sefer 5:1 and Sefer HaMitzvah Principle 9. Some state that according to Rava, one receives 4 sets of lashes when he sacrifices leaven and honey separately and subsequently sacrifices mixtures that contain them. Whereas if he sacrifices only the mixtures, everyone agrees that he does not receive 4 sets of lashes to Tosfot. Apparently, Rashi rejects this opinion. Rava says he is flogged with 4 sets of lashes for this act, as the verse, and as any leaven and any honey, you should not burn any of it as an offering made by fire to the Lord. Leviticus 2:11 includes 4 separate prohibitions. He is flogged 1 set due to prohibition against sacrificing leaven, and he is flogged a 2nd set due to prohibition against sacrificing honey, and he is flogged the 3rd set due to prohibition against sacrificing mixture of leaven, and he is flogged the 4th set due to prohibition against sacrificing mixtures of honey. Abaye says one is not flogged for a general prohibition. This matter is discussed in several places in the Talmud. Some commentators differentiate between various types of general prohibitions. One category is a Torah prohibition containing several specific prohibitions. For example, Devash, you shall not eat anything with the blood. Leviticus 19:26 includes several prohibitions. Among them, the prohibition concerning eating from an animal while it is alive, the prohibition concerning eating a sacrificial animal before its blood has been presented on the altar, and the prohibition forbidding judges who have condemned a man to death from eating on the day of his execution. No punishment is administered by the court for the violation of a prohibition of this kind, even if one violates all specific prohibitions at once. Another category of general prohibition is a single negative statement that includes multiple prohibitions. For example, the verse with regard to priests, they shall not take a woman that is a zona or a halala, Leviticus 21:7, prohibits priests from marrying two different categories of women by virtue of a single negative statement. See Abaye and Rava, Sefer Yasha 534, and Rambam Sefer Mitzvot, Principle 9. See also Rabbi Abraham Menachot. A single mitzvah in the Torah that includes many different prohibited acts. Since all these actions are covered by the prohibition you should not burn, it is considered a general prohibition for which one is not flogged. The Gemara cites this puberty in the sage with regard to the opinion of Abaye. There are those who say that Abaye concede in any event the offender is flogged with one set of lashes sacrificing leaven, and he is also flogged a second set of lashes sacrificing honey, as these are not considered general prohibitions. Since the phrase you should not burn is referring to both leaven and honey, it is as though it were written, you shall not burn leaven and you shall not burn honey. And there are those who say that Abaye maintains that the offender is not even flogged with one set of lashes, as the prohibition to transgress is not specific to one matter, like the prohibition against muzzling. One may not prevent animals from eating the food with which they are working. Although the verse specifies an ox, you should not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. Deuteronomy 25:4. All animals, including fowl, including the prohibition. Rashi explains that the reason this mitzvah is cited as a paradigmatic example of a clearly defined prohibition for which one receives lashes. In the preceding verses discuss one who is liable to receive lashes. That's from Deuteronomy 25:2-3. The principle is that one is liable to be flogged for violating a prohibition is derived from the juxtaposition of the mitzvah, you shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain, Deuteronomy 25:4. With the verses that mention lashes, it is inferred from the juxtaposition that one is not liable to be flogged for violating prohibitions. Circumstances are not similar to that of muzzling, e.g. in prohibition is not referring to one specific action. Thank you for listening and all the best. Bye.